Yeah, I'm recording.
All right.
Everyone recording?
Yeah, recording.
Well,
Yeah, I got it. It's working.
All right. Okay, great. So cue music. All right. So welcome to this episode of Critical Mass.
Hi.
I'm your host, Sleep Monkey.
Yeah, and I'm Pilgrim.
I'm Doodle. Although last episode we kind of steered off using our tags and actually started using our names. So I guess
Did we?
We can.
I think we did towards the end.
Well, let's just. I don't mind. I can. If we use our real names, we'll just use our real names. We'll get doxed. It's no problem. How's everyone doing?
Yeah, we're good, man. What games have everyone been playing?
Oh shit! I finished God of War yesterday.
Nice.
Oh, nice.
Yes.
What did you think of that ending? No spoilers.
I liked the ending a lot.
Yeah, it's good, right?
Man,
You
how to
probably
talk
already
about
knew.
it with no spoilers? Holy shit!
Man, it
Yeah,
threw
yeah.
me. That I was not expecting that at the end. Somehow I managed to miss it on Reddit and everything, and it was incrable.
I
Yeah, it's
actually I read it somewhere like stupid, and I was like, "Fuck!"
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. It would be amazing if you could have the ability to forget things or to
I know.
choose to forget things.
Because I managed to avoid it for like months and months and months, and then like literally like the week I bought it, I was like, oh, okay, there's a spoiler. Wow.
Yeah, and it's kind of a big one. All right, so what are we talking about today? What's on the agenda?
Yeah. So I guess today we're talking about free to play games,
Awesome.
like how that model kind of impacts game quality, if it does, how it does so. I guess we'll also probably reach into hats and monetization techniques
Nice.
such as loot boxes, battle passes,
Yeah.
how they
Oh,
are steering
wow.
the industry in a certain direction.
Oh man.
The like future of the video game industry, maybe.
Maybe.
Touching on there a little bit, perhaps.
Maybe if we
Um,
feel like it.
Gee,
My-
this is a big one.
That's a
Yeah,
big
yeah.
one, probably. Yeah. We'll also see if we get to explore how many esports, if not most of the top esports games that like on Twitch and stuff, are free to play at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah. What is the top esport game?
The top.
Oh, it's going to
well,
be Fortnite, eh?
that depends
gotta
if you're
be Fortnite.
talking like prize money, player base. Dota is miles ahead in terms of money. Like it's not even close.
Yeah, prize money.
Yeah,
Yeah.
prize money for player base. I would say League of Legends is maybe a little bit further.
Mhm.
Fortnite is still a bit behind. It's like it's
I mean,
very widely played,
Is it
but it doesn't
is it
have
really
much
an
of an
e-sport at this stage?
No, I don't. Like there are tournaments and shit, and I think Epic are trying to pump money into making it viable as an esports. But
I can't see that
Uh,
game making it, man. I can't
no,
see that making
I really can't either. Like just the nature of the game, like there's something fundamentally wrong with having like 100 players in like one match. It's not spectator friendly, in my opinion.
So this is interesting because a few years ago, free-to-play games were basically Flash games or like super
Yeah,
cheap.
I mean,
games.
Team Fortress 2 came out 2007.
Was that free-to-play?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Oh
think.
shit, I don't know because it was in the orange box.
Yeah, I don't think it was free-to-play when it first came out. Maybe. Well, regardless. So there wasn't much in terms of free-to-play, and now obviously, like every game is free-to-play, or it feels like every game is free-to-play.
Yeah.
And clearly there's
I
a
wish.
reason for it. I don't know. Did you guys see? How much Epic made their profit in 2018?
I
No.
read the number, but I've forgotten it.
Man, I need to find this. You'll talk a bit more. I'm going to find it.
Okay, because it's
Sure.
probably a lot of money, but there
Yeah,
are
it's a lot of money.
There are a lot more free to play games now. I mean, there's games like PUBG and Fortnite, and they're all the MOBAs.
PUBG's not free to play.
Isn't it?
Pretty sure not.
Oh
$3
shit! No,
billion.
man, I bought that. How much did they make?
$3 billion profit.
Wow.
That's not income. That's profit.
Wow, that's a lot.
That's
man.
like what they cleared. That's what the shareholders get. That's money in the bank.
It would be interesting to see like where that money comes from as well. Like how much of it is a shop in game, how much of it I guess is like Twitch partnerships perhaps. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sponsors, that kind of thing.
I mean, if you want, I'll get the financial statements, man. We'll go through them right now.
Well,
We'll work it out.
listen, Doodle. There you started right off. You know what about free to play games? Because the point is, they're free to play, but they sure as
Yeah.
hell weren't free to make, and they're not free to maintain. So the question is where they get their profits from. Where's their money actually coming from?
Yeah.
And I guess this is why, at least to sort of to old people like me, when I was younger, we never had free. Because like when I think about it, free to play to me is like a warning sign on a game. It like warns me off.
Like, this
if I
game
see
sucks.
F to pay, P, it's like, oh, that game's gonna suck.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
and I think the
I
reason
mean-
it's got that bad rep is because of the kind of stuff that free to play games have to resort to in order to fund themselves. You know what I mean?
Yeah. The
Like loot
way they
boxes.
make money fundamentally impacts the product in terms of, I guess, quality, not least. And yet here we are with one of the most popular games of 2018. I guess the most popular game of 2018 being free to play,
Yeah.
and ultimately quite fun.
You're talking about Fortnite?
I
Yeah,
don't think
Fortnite,
I don't think it's that fun, man.
No, I mean, of course, but clearly, I think 12 million 12-year-olds disagree with you.
Yeah, I think that's certainly true. No, but so I think that I think the gaming industry influenced the mobile gaming industry to a certain extent. The first mobile games they took inspiration from video games and of course scaled them back in terms of complexity and depth and so on. But now I think it's going the other way around. People can see
for
from
sure.
mobile games that like shit, these games are free. They're quite cheap to make. They're quite cheap to maintain. And yet they're making bank on.
I think it makes sense, right? Because it's just the biggest player base is going to be the casual gamer. It's not going to be the hardcore gamer. They're not the bigger player base, and that's seen quite clearly in the meteoric rise of mobile games and the amount of money that the mobile games industry makes. I mean, it's something like half of the revenue of all video games comes from mobile games.
Yeah, it's spectacular.
It's amazing, and so it just makes sense that the route that people will go down is to try and capture this casual gamer base. And how have they done that?
Yeah.
Through making things free to play.
It's interesting that you said free to play is a label where like you kind of have to, you tie caution to it.
Yeah, definitely.
It's interesting that you say that because 6 of the 9 most popular games on Twitch right now are free to play.
Well, yeah, but
Which are those games?
Huh?
Which are those games?
Fortnite, League of Legends, Hearthstone, Counter-Strike, Dota, and Path of Exile.
Okay, wait, let me just flag one thing. First of all, Hearthstone sure as hell is not free to play. I mean, it's free to play,
it's pay to
but
win.
it's free to lose. I think that's a better word.
Losing costs nothing.
The other one's sure, but
I mean, it's still free to play game, right? I mean, it has its own monetization techniques, just like these other games do.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think this is where this is where the convo should start. Really, I guess is what we're saying. Yeah, they have their techniques to monetize it, and that's got a bad rep with some gamers, And then let's get specific about what kind of thing, how they do it. There's various kinds of microtransactions. It's cosmetics, loot boxes. You can buy items. Sometimes there's a timer. I mean, that's more mobile game, I guess. I don't think I've seen that in video games. And there can be, collectibles like Hearthstone, a collectible card game.
Didn't Star Wars Battlefront 2 have a freaking timer in it when they released it?
That was on the amount of money you could make in arcade mode, I think.
Yeah,
so
right.
I think that's a timer right there. Boom, fucking EA.
It's interesting how generally timers are seen as nobody really gives a shit when they're mobile games. Well,
that's because Star Wars Battlefront wasn't fucking free. Star Wars Battlefront was fucking $60.
Yeah.
That's I guess that's what happened. The people who made video games saw how well the people who made mobile games were doing in terms of monetizing their product past just the initial purchase. Then they tried to copy that, like EA did. But the problem is that a full-priced AAA video game is really fucking expensive. So then when you're also expected to either grind or have a timer or pay for cosmetics or whatever, understandably, people are pretty pissed off about that. You don't have that with the mobile games. So now the logical solution, we have free-to-play games with microtransactions.
Yeah. But I guess I wanted to ask you why you associate free-to-play games, but I guess as being bad.
Well. So here's the thing. First of all, a lot of them, in my experience, are kind of trash. You know, if you go
Like
into
what?
if you go into Steam and you just click free to play games, there's going to be
Sure.
a truckload of trash. I mean, I guess that's true of any brand, of any sort of genre on Steam, because of all the crap that's there these days. But the thing for me is the things they do to make money, and they can be sort of annoyances, like only cosmetics, which in general people say don't have gameplay influences, although I sort of disagree, because I played games where you can buy clothes that camouflage you in shooters, you know, or stuff like that.
Yeah, but let's be real. That's not really how it works. I think that's unfair to say that they.
Yeah, okay, yes, it's not fair to
Especially
games like Dota or CS, but you know, shooters like I don't know.
Like, what are you thinking? Like,
Well, now I'm thinking PUBG because I thought that was free to play, but it isn't, is it?
no.
Yeah, and Fortnite has these cosmetics, but
Yeah,
to
but
be
it's
completely
but
honest,
I mean-
they make you more visible.
Well, yeah, but then it's the loot boxes. I don't like being asked to pay little bits of money for little things the whole time. And I think in general, the fundamental problem of free to play games. I'm just going to go out there and say that what I think the fundamental problem is that when you're sitting down to design a game, if you think like the guys who made God of War, they all sat that round a table. They were like, how are we going to make this game? How are we going to design it? What decisions are we going to have to do? What's the player going to be doing? How can we fit the mechanics with the theme, with the narrative? And they made all these nice synergies of all those things, and they made this brilliant game. When it comes to free-to-play games, the anchor of all those discussions is always, well, how are we going to make money? So you have the decision of how are we going to squeeze money out of this, influencing the game design rather than which doesn't happen in other games. So it's like
I don't think that's a problem.
I'm not sure that's true as well, because although yes, for God of War they made a product, you bought it, you play it, that's it. If you're happy, it's great. Especially because it's single player, that's all there is to it. But and this might sound stupid, but for online MMOs have been previous in the past, they've been monthly subscriptions. So again, there they have to think of ways to keep you hooked so that you'll keep paying.
Yeah.
And again, this may sound stupid, but in the past there were arcade games, and many of these retro arcade games are lauded for being brilliant games.
Sure.
But they likewise are designed around how do we keep the user putting coins into the machine. So there are lots of cheap hooks to make you die early to make
And
sure.
I mean, I guess you could also make from like a development point of view, like if you want to keep a game running and fresh and you want to keep new content coming in, I mean, you got to be making money over a period of time, right? I mean, you can't just make
that's the point I wanted to
one-off sale.
That's the point I wanted to get to later. But first, the thing you just said now, you're talking about the design decision. You folks have always had to decide how to make money. I mean, that's true, obviously, because you've got to sell the product or keep a monthly subscription back in the old days. But what I'm thinking about more is a game like, say, Hearthstone. You know, they need to make money and they need to sell their card packs. So how can they market them? Well, they say, well, these cards are a little bit better than these other cards. So if you buy these cards, you'll have a slight advantage. And then you get this power creep and it becomes pay to win. And that's what the problem is, because the method they've chosen by which to make money is to introduce pay to win mechanics and power creep. Cards that so
that's a bad. I think we agree, all of us, that is a bad way to do free play.
But I think the weird thing about free to play games is that the three of the biggest ones: Team Fortress, Dota, and CS.
Team Fortress. You a decade behind, boy.
No, well, I'm just saying the ones that have big player base on Steam.
If only there was a more contemporary example we could use, something like Fortnite.
No. Because the point I'm making is if you take three of the biggest ones, right? Team Fortress, CS:GO, and Dota. Those are all Valve games. They're running them, and I don't know how much money they're making off them. Probably a lot, but I don't think it's going to be it's not their sort of one egg in their basket. They've got Steam. They're making a shitload of money from that. That's why they haven't developed a game for the last 20 years or whatever.
Yeah, of course.
So
it's less profitable.
So when it comes to Dota, for example, I think it's actually an anomalous free-to-play game in the sense that the developers and the publishers don't really have to worry so much about introducing pay-to-win mechanics in order to motivate sales, because they're not a small developer. But if you're a small developer coming out, out of the bat and need to make cash, then that's when you're sort of prompted to introduce these kinds of mechanics. That's why most free-to-play games, I think,
Sure.
are trash because they are pay-to-win. And the anomalous ones are the ones where that
But the anomalous ones
necessity
are
of
the
making...
ones that are really popular and are not
Yeah,
played.
that are doing well.
Yeah, sure.
And so it's like if someone says, "Yo, let's play this free-to-play game," probably it's not gonna be shit.
Well, no,
'Cause it's the
the
one with
reverse
players,
is true
right?
because if it's the one I've heard of, then yeah, it might not be trash. You know, like CS:GO is one of my favorite games of all time. But if someone's like, oh, there's this new thing, it's called Strangers of Dark, and it's come out this month, and it's like a JRPG MMO, which is free to play. It's like, no, that's going to suck. And that's just the default assumption I have, and 9 times out of 10 it's correct.
Well, like most mobile games suck for the exact same reason.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for shiz.
But let's look at Fortnite. Why not? Pilgrim, do you have anything that you feel strongly about with the way that they have monetized the game? Because I know you are probably the most critical out of all of us of free to play and microtransactions, but
I don't like that they sell it to kids. That's all.
Somebody think of the children.
No, it's getting them to do microtransactions. Because if I understand it correctly, it's not loot boxes in Fortnite. I can't remember getting loot boxes.
No, that's right. It's
You
not
just
loot
buy
You buy the
item
sim.
sets. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So in that sense, it's fine, and it's cosmetics only, as far as I understand.
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's like I have such a hard time caring about Fortnite because I think it's such a trash game. But clearly, lots of people play it. And
yeah, I think it's because you suck.
Well, be that as it may, I still don't really think it's I still don't think it's a very deep game. I don't think it's a very interesting game. I think there's too much randomness to it. I think that it's a bit clanky the way you move, the way you build. I just don't like the design decisions.
Well,
I don't like the artwork. I don't like the style.
It's clearly not as deep as some other games. And yet it's done very well. It's very popular. And is it not maybe fair? Would you not say it's fair that they've created a game that's free to play and then you can spend money on it if you want, but it's only for hats?
Yeah.
And dancers.
Yeah.
I just don't know. I just don't like this cosmetic stuff. You might think it's illogical, but the thing that I don't like about it is it's like they've made this game and you've... So that's the problem with free-to-play games. Because when you start thinking about these cosmetics, my mind always wanders towards games which are not free-to-play, which have, cosmetic microtransactions. And there, of course, it's much, much worse. And I think maybe that's where the negativity comes from.
Yeah.
Because you feel
like Overwatch, you can't select what you want to buy. You have to buy the boxes
get
and
loot
then
boxes,
pray that you
yeah.
win.
What I mean is something like, say, an EA game, like a Battlefield or a Battlefront. You buy the game, and then they've made assets for the game that you've bought, but they're like, no, you can't have this asset. It's like, why not? They're like, you have to give us $5. Then it's like
in Red Dead Online, for example.
Yeah, so
I tricked you. I trapped you.
No, because the thing is, so on the one hand, yes, but on the other hand, in Red Dead, of course, you should be able to, part of the progression of your character should be buying new outfits and new weapons. So that should be there. However, I don't think that it should cost premium gold to progress, if you know what I mean. Like, I have no problem with, you need to be a level 12 assault class in Battlefield 5 to unlock this hat. That's cool. But if it's like you have to buy a gold bar for $5 and then exchange that for this hat, then that's where it's wrong. So I think that the thing with Fortnite is that, of course, those things still apply, but then it's like, yeah, but you haven't actually bought this game. This is how we're funding it. So I understand that point, but I still think it has a massively negative impact on the industry because it's normalizing that kind of trash.
I would actually argue the opposite. I think this kind of trend we're seeing where games are like free to play, and then the ones that are really popular and do really well get a massive player base, and then they're free to play, and you can choose what cosmetics you want to buy if you want to buy them at all. Otherwise, you can just play a fun game for free. I don't see how that's a problem.
Because it's normalizing the fact that you have these cosmetic packs, and in
why
Fortnite...
is that necessarily a problem? Because I think obviously we can say, oh, I bought this game. I bought Red Dead Redemption
Yeah.
2. It was expensive. I'm now playing online. Why are you locking these assets away from me?
Yeah.
Even though I paid for the game and these are my, I paid for it. It doesn't
Sure.
cost you anything. So why? But they don't have to justify it. That's the economic decision they've made. They've said, well, this is what we've done. You've got a single player game which you can play for free, and if you want all of these things, you have to buy them, and that's just the way that our game economy works. And if you want to play this game, then you have to buy these.
Listen. I'm fine with the game economy when it comes to like you can go and shoot 5 bandits, get $200, and then buy some clothes. That I'm okay with. It's that when they say you need to give us $5. Because then it's like,
but why?
But the reason I don't like it is because they've said, okay, we've made this game, we've made all these assets, and they exist, but we're gating it. We're going to withhold it from you until you give us even more money, and that is.
I know.
So what the reason sorry.
So what I'm saying is, I think I understood that. What I'm saying is, yes, okay, I'm also upset that it costs £60 or whatever for the AAA title, but that's just the cost of the game. We have no, right to be mad about that. And the new economy that we have is that now things cost real money. If you can no longer expect to buy a game full price and have all of the assets within the game.
So what you're saying is you can't expect to pay full price for a full game.
Well,
it's like why would they like make new stuff? Like if you bought the game, like Reddit Online, what from like their perspective, they have nothing to gain from adding more stuff to the online for free, right?
So this is gets into the model, and this is what you mentioned before. You use the term, like I can't remember what you said, but it's basically the concept of a live game, post-release support, that like you have seasons and battle passes, and they'll continue to update it and patch it and release new stuff.
It's like a service contract.
Well, whatever they call that sort of stuff, right? But lots of games have been kept up to date in the past by adding expansions or by adding, actual content that you can get hold of, that you can pay for. And that's the way that they funded it, rather than through these kind of like weird mechanics. It's like for example, when Star Wars Battlefront.
But now you're just saying
out,
DLC is okay.
Yeah, of course DLC is okay if it's
But why is DLC okay?
Because if DLC is used in the sense of like, okay, we've released this game. Okay, here's everything we've made. Like, look at something like Diablo 2 is a perfect example. They released Diablo 2. Okay. Now they went on to make that thing called like Lords of Destruction, or their expansion it was. It was a new act, it was a new character, new items. I seem to remember there were new mechanics as well. And then you could buy that. Okay, so now they provided post-release support. They've patched a load of the bugs from the original release. During this time, they've continually released live updates. And that's
a very blurry line you're drawing.
I really agree, because the thing is, like, you're basically just like
you're saying
calling
if
it a different name.
If they're packaging it into a neat parcel, then it's okay. If they're releasing it continuously and you pay for the stuff you want,
sure.
Yeah, but it's
because
also
Fortnite are like continuously fixing their bugs and they're releasing new stuff.
Well, again,
so in a way, you can say like, oh, it's a new expansion pack like every week.
No. So again, Fortnite is anomalous. Fortnite is anomalous because it's free to play, and my argument there is that it has a negative effect on the industry at large.
What about
when it comes to Diablo, my point is it's not just a matter of what you're calling things. That okay, this is a neat pack and these are one by one. It's also a question of what you get for your money. You could pay, I don't know how much it would be in today's money. An extra like £30 to get Lords of Destruction. Okay, you get a whole load of stuff. You get a new act for that. That's another 25% of the game.
Maybe I just want to pay like a couple $1 and get like a nice cool hat, and then
I know, but so yeah, this is my point. $1 costs 2 hats. Okay, that thing costs $30. So what's that? You get 50. You can either pay $2 15 times and have 15 hats, or you can have a whole new act, and new gameplay mechanics, and new characters. This is what's happened to the industry. Is that this expense is just got out of hand. And it's not.
But I think the thing is, you can't, unfortunately, get mad at this specific part of video games without just basically getting mad at the economy as a whole. They're doing the most sensible thing that they can do from their shareholders' point of view, which is a more intelligent way, basically, to monetize games.
Also, I don't think you're necessarily taking into account like the kinds of games that are using like these kind of monetization techniques. Like, how are you gonna make an expansion pass for like Counter-Strike or like Overwatch? Like, what are you gonna package? Because then, as soon as you do, people who with like online games, as soon as you do, there becomes a divide between people who have it and don't have it, and this reduces the player bases and has all kinds of knock-on effects. And it's like it's just straight up inappropriate for the like type of game you're making.
So you're talking about player base splitting through like expansions, like in like Battlefield 3, Battlefield
Sure,
4.
I mean that's exactly what happened with like The Last of Us Online when it came out, I think, and also Uncharted. Like there were loads of new maps,
You're
and it's
right.
like, oh, but only the people who bought them can play these maps. And it's like queue times are like way different. And it's like, oh shit, I can't play with my friends because they have this map, and it's like, oh, we
I
can't
think,
play on this
yeah,
cool
I mean,
map.
in this specific example, which I personally think is quite interesting because I really enjoyed The Last of Us Online until they basically dropped the expansion pack, which is pay to win, where you could get, assault rifles and you had just much better gear, but you had to pay, and I completely killed the interest in the game for me. I didn't want to pay for that, and this was before it was
Yeah.
normalized, as Pilgrim's
Yeah,
saying.
but that's not.
But
Well-
they've shot themselves in the foot, I think, there, because they completely lost the user base. Now it's just a really niche game.
But you can look at this. I mean, so like when I look at different models of funding things, one of the things you can look at is the Paradox model, who make these grand strategy games like European Universalis 4, Crusader Kings 2, Stellaris, and the way those games work is they release these like big content packs that maybe cost, I don't know, £10-20, which introduce new mechanics, and through the sales of those they fund the continued bug squashing and development and so on and so
But
forth.
those aren't online games, dude.
No, but the point is they are multiplayer games. And then
No,
the
but they
point
have
is,
multiplayer. But like,
I know, but just let me get to the point. The point is, if you then go to multiplayer and you say you haven't bought any expansion, you can join any game. That's fine. You just can't create a game with those expansions. But you can join someone else who's got them. And that's one way of resolving it. For example.
sure, but like these games are not gonna have the same player base as like.
But so are you saying that things need to be free to play and have cosmetics to get a big player base?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
I definitely think that. I mean that like. Yeah.
Okay, but
there's
then,
a reason
but then,
why
okay.
like the most popular games are free
All
to play.
right, wait, let me get down to the wire again. Okay, so you said that they need to have free-to-play mechanics in order to have a big player base. Now, does that sound like a decision that the developers made or a decision that the publishers made? Because this is my bottom line on
The developers
this
when
is
they're
the
making
end,
the game, right? Yeah.
No, this is the end point that I have. If you take something like Star Wars, Battlefront, the second one that came out now. Clearly, the design of that game had been strongly influenced by publishers and shareholders rather than the developers. The whole game was structured around the idea of making money, in the same way that like FIFA Ultimate Team is structured around making money. That's clearly not a developer decision, it's a publisher decision, and the game suffered for it, like in terms of basically how good it was, how fun it is. Sure. And I think that's true, I think, of these free-to-play games that use pay-to-win mechanics.
You think that they were made like without a monetization plan, and then like towards the end they were like, let's just make it free to play and add loot boxes?
No, but I think what William's saying, which is true, is that if you have a free to play game, or if most or all of your revenue is going to come from microtransactions, you have to steer the development of the game to favor those transactions. So in Fortnite, for example, you just have to have exceedingly bombastic and, I guess, annoying dances and skins, because that becomes very important for your revenue, for your money. And so the same was true in Star Wars Battlefront 2, which was designed. So they designed the game to be grindy, so that you'd end up paying money. But what I was going to say was Star Wars Battlefront 2 tanked really hard because they got it wrong.
Yeah.
And yet other games like Fortnite and Dota, I suppose, are doing exceedingly well because clearly, maybe not to Pilgrim's taste, but to most people's taste, they've got that balance right.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I
also don't see the problem with having with having hats. Anyway, I mean, I've spent quite a lot of money on Dota, and like I don't see a problem with that. Like it's a game that I've got thousands of hours of enjoyment out of. Looking at what I paid per hour, you can take a look on Steam and you see like how much like worth you got out of the game.
I think it's interesting because literally you Doodles and you Pilgrim, I think, have the two opposite arguments that you see, I mean, pretty much every day on Reddit, which is you, Doodle, saying, who cares? Vote with your wallet. If you want them, buy them. If you don't want them, don't buy them. Who cares? It's just hats, cosmetic. It's not pay to win, whatever. And then Pilgrim saying, okay, well, that may very well be the case, but what are the wider implications for the industry? And essentially,
that's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say, if you take a step back and you look holistically at this, the question you need to ask yourself is, in which way is the industry evolving if we continue to allow this kind of development?
Yeah, here's my answer to that.
But what's happening? So I'll just say what I think, and then you could tell me what you think. But what I think is that there's a power balance always been between publishers and developers, between what the developers want to be able to do, and then however niche they want to make their game, and then there's a publisher saying like, no, you can't add that. The game will be too hard. No one will want it, or you can't do that. It'll be too easy. No one will play it, or whatever. We can't market that. You have to get rid of this content. That's too lewd. That's too sexual. And that's always been a power balance. But it's shifting more and more and more towards these big, strong publishers who seemingly call way more shots than developers these days. And when a game comes out like God of War, you can see clearly when the developers have been given the time and the space to fulfill their vision and as a result create a masterpiece. And that doesn't happen, in my view, with free-to-play games because they're not designed around the same philosophy. They're designed to make money. Anyway, that's what I think. Yeah. I mean, I know that's a hipster argument, but I think it's true.
Fundamentally, I pretty much disagree with everything you said. And here's the thing.
And the life choices that you have made.
No, so here's the thing. There's several reasons why I think this, and I'm going to explain each of them.
Yeah.
So, firstly, it sounds a lot like you're scarred from Battlefront 2. Battlefront 2.
I still have nightmares.
Right.
Why did you buy that, man?
You're saying publishers are calling the shots, like when you have these free-to-play games with loot boxes and what's the other one, like the battle passes and shit, you're gonna have publishers pushing this shit, making the game worse, right? Impacting game quality in a bad way. And I think that's not the case at all. I think what happened with Battlefront 2, the reason that what was the comment they made in Reddit? Sense of pride and accomplishment.
Pride and accomplishment. Yeah.
The reason I think that got the what's it called, highest downvoted comments in history was because that was such an exception in the industry, and I think gamers just don't put up with that shit, and they're not going to put up with this shit. And I think if publishers do make these decisions for the developers, no one's going to buy the game, and they're going to see that, and they're going to make changes and they're going to fix it, or that game's just going to fail, and that's okay.
That's a good point. Yeah, I think that's a good point. I think you both make good points because yes, that's true, but also I do think it's true that although the worst ones will get neglected by players, I do think that it means that it's going to reduce the amount of innovation that you can get in video games if this is how the industry will continue.
I also disagree with that.
Okay. I just think that you can't take much of a risk and you can't do very innovative things, or it's harder to do innovative things if your if your business model is based around microtransactions and being free to play and getting people,
but here's the thing. So it seems like you're making the argument that free-to-play games with microtransactions is necessarily bad for the industry because it will allow publishers to make decisions that impact game development and which have an impact on game quality.
Gameplay.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think there's two things about this. Firstly, I don't think you can compare these types of games.
Which ones?
Well, you're talking about like Battlefront 2, right?
Yeah.
And shit like that. I don't think you can compare that to Dota, Counter-Strike, Fortnite, League of Legends. I'm pretty certain all of these games self-publish. Valve published Dota, they published Counter-Strike, Epic published Fortnite, League of Legends was Riot, they published that as well. Like, all of these games are self-published. So, then it's like, okay, well, maybe it's still bad for the industry because then, well, maybe other companies will be like, okay, but look, loot boxes sell really well. Let's try and put this in our game. So
Yeah, that's
then maybe
literally
you
what's
see it.
happened.
Yeah, so you see that like more commonly in games like Call of Duty, like new Black Ops and stuff like that. And then it's like, okay, sure. You could make that argument, yes. I would still make the argument that it's not bad for the industry because ultimately it's just pumping more money into the industry. Like video games, and the video game industry is just getting bigger and bigger. Like in the past decade, Twitch has been on like a massive rise. The amount of money the video games industry is making as a whole
Yeah,
is
I
like
mean it's making
massively
more
increasing.
money, but I think the
And
argument would be that now there's no longer competition necessarily for who can make the best game. It's no longer who can make the finest video game to which most people want to buy and play and enjoy. It's now skewed towards how can we make a game that will make us the most money by exploiting freemium and microtransactions and pay to win mechanics.
I mean, you're always going to have games like Clash of Clans or whatever, where it's like you have to wait a few hours or you can pay to have your fucking building built now.
Yeah.
Like, but like that the game's not going to win any awards. Like,
well, look. Let me say.
It's like games like Fortnite, which do have these.
But
things.
wait,
like, they probably are going to win awards.
No, but let me say something
really
about
good games
Fortnite.
in itself.
No, because the thing is, look at Fortnite. Okay,
Mhm.
That game has been designed to attract the maximum number of players, and it's done that by being incredibly bland. In my view,
Yeah,
it's extremely simple. There's not much that sets it apart from any other battle royale. It's like if you think like, okay, I want, how could, if you were the game designer of that game, you might say, well, how could we, what could we add to this? Could we add vehicles? Could we add different maps? Could we add some sort of interesting, survival mechanics, different base building mechanics? Could we build, placeable turrets? Could we make, could you do tunneling? Could we have different planes? What could we do to innovate in this setting? But they're not doing any of that because their aim is not to create a good game.
True.
Clearly,
that's not true at all.
Their aim is to make money and to keep it.
That argument falls down because they have added vehicles.
They have added vehicles. They've added like zero gravity stuff.
But what I was going to say was, I think perhaps the most compelling case for the argument I made that this moving towards this business model will stifle innovation is the fact that the game of the year 2018, Fortnite, basically, the player's favorite was Fortnite. So the most played game is Fortnite, which is literally a rip-off of another game. So the most played game in 2018 is I mean, I don't know.
But why was the game they ripped off, not the game? A game.
Yeah, because they did it better. But
exactly.
My point was that it's not innovation. They're not innovating.
No, but it
all
doesn't
they've done
have
is
to
they've
be.
seen.
Why does a game have to be innovative? Like, why can't it actually be really good stuff?
Well, it can as well, but my argument is that moving this way will remove innovation from the industry. Now, you might say that's not a bad thing. I think it's a very bad thing. I think that we need innovation because otherwise you're just going to end up with loads of Dotas and PUBGs, and you might be able to say, yeah, okay, sure, but they're more fun, or this version's more fun. But we need innovation to keep the industry.
Sure, I mean, I think there needs to be a balance between the two. This it's 2019 now. Last year we saw Red Dead and we saw God of War. I think it's fair to say those two are very innovative games. They were both highly recognized as such, and then they sold very well and they did very well. That's good. I think there does need to be innovation for the industry to keep games interesting and fresh. However, I also think it's important that you have games like Dota and League of Legends and stuff like that to help grow esports, normalize the industry, and make it so there's more of a livelihood. You can stream, you can make a living doing that. You can write about video games, be a journalist. You can
make podcasts.
Be a player. You can make podcasts.
Who would do that?
It's I think it's important that video games just grows.
Let's keep it real about God of War, because you said they did. It was an innovative game. It was a really good game, and they did well. It's but did they make $3 billion in profit? The answer is no.
No, of course not.
Nowhere near that. So then the point is that the way the industry is going is, do you
But
think
those games are not made to make money.
They're made to sell a console. That's the whole point. Do you think Epic's publishers would say like, yeah, exactly. Do you think Epic's publishers would say like, oh, you know what? Instead of funding Fortnite, let's make a game about a Greek god who has to go to Scandinavia and it's only single player and he has to fight gods. And they're like, well, can we put some loot boxes in? They're like, no, it doesn't fit with our game design. They'd be like, no, I'm not going to fund that. Why would I spend my money on that when I can make $3 billion making like different dances?
And if you're a shareholder of Sony, you could very rightfully go to the shareholders meeting and say, listen, God of War, yeah, great, you won a fancy award, but meanwhile, Epic is making $3 billion off a play game. Can you sort your shit out, please?
Yeah.
I want my money.
Yeah. And because so then what might happen is the shareholders at Sony would say, okay, listen, make a sequel to God of War, make it just as good, but this time, every time you find a chest, instead of finding like Edun's apple or whatever he finds in it, how about you get an ancient runic box, which you can only open with a key, which you can buy 10 for $3, and then you can get a random item.
Okay, sure. I would argue that
then God of War
this doesn't really
shit.
happen, and the reason it doesn't happen is because you can kind of predict what games are going to do well and what games are going to do bad.
What do you mean?
Well, if someone said that, like I feel like it would be very hard to make a good God of War, like 2, with loot boxes in it, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like they would know that. And if they didn't, then maybe it's good that it happens, because then the industry realizes, it's like, oh shit, we can't just put loot boxes into these games.
I think essentially the argument you're making, Doodle, is that the market will find its own balance.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
It will find the balance that's right for players, because
Yeah.
people will buy and play what they enjoy and they want. And I think perhaps what Pilgrim and I are saying, which is probably very highbrow and elitist, is that most players kind of suck ass and don't really know a good game from a piece of shit. And so it's just worrying, I guess, the way that things are going, because they are tending towards an extremely profitable, but I would argue innovation stifling business model.
Well, let me give. Oh, sorry, yeah.
No, I was just going to say, Pilgrim. I was interested in something you said previously, because you said if we allow this to happen, I don't know if you were, implying that we need to get like out in the streets revolting, or if you were thinking of some kind of like control on businesses. Or
no, what I mean is both the last 2 years, both 2017 and 2018. At the end of the year, these roundups, like game sites and PC Gamer and whatnot have been writing. A common theme has been, this was a decent year for gaming, but we didn't really see any standout products except this one and this one. There's always been like one or two really standout games, and this year it was God of War and Red Dead 2, and to a certain sense in the indie sphere it was Kingdom Come. But otherwise,
Spider-Man was quite popular as well.
Yeah, Spider-Man, sure, but it has been noted the last 2 years in the industry by journalists and people writing about it that they haven't seen these massive sort of, I don't know, it's often noted, what I've been reading, that there isn't this great flora of very diverse games, and I think that's part of this pattern.
Yeah, no, I can see that, and
but I was just going to say, sorry, one more thing about what you said, Doodle. Yeah. You were talking about, well, the market's going to find its own balance, and I mean that's a sort of very strong belief in the invisible hand of the gaming market, and I can't really see that, because when I look at the games that are making the most money, and Fortnite, for example,
yeah,
and I can see that it has its strengths to people who enjoy that kind of game, but I think that if you're completely honest, and you just set aside this whole discussion and just look at Fortnite, at the game, what it is, how it's designed, what the mechanics are, what you do, I don't think that game deserves to make 100 times more than all the other games. Like if you're honest about it, I don't know. I think we're lucky that we've still got developers who are making these good games, and it is, and this comes back to weirdly back to the same thing with Valve, is that the developers and the publishers that can afford to make things which aren't money gouging, they are the ones who are making good games. The ones that are essentially financially independent. Studios like CD Projekt Red, studios like Valve, to a certain extent Blizzard, although Activision has become the worm tongue in their ear, and Rockstar. I mean, these studios are making reliably solid games, and it's because they're financially independent. But there must be, plenty of really intelligent up-and-coming game designers and studios and developers out there trying to make their games, trying to find a publisher. And what I imagine happening is publishers saying stuff like, yeah, this game looks really neat, but in order to attract more players, you'll really need to do this. Or, well, you can't really have that mechanic, or you can't make it this difficult, or whatever. Or we should have some sort of loot box. Can we monetize this? Mm-hmm. And that is what's stifling the industry. And you said yourself, and I agree with you, that the best free-to-play games are the Valve ones. And I think probably the best free-to-play game out there is Dota, I would say. But the point is, or maybe CSGO, but those are developed by studios which are financially independent. Like, Valve don't need to worry about this kind of shit. I mean, they're like fucking Google,
I do think that we have to accept that microtransactions are a new reality. I think that's just going to happen, unfortunately. And most games are going to have trying to find new ways to monetize. I just think it's the only way they can survive, really. It's the only way they can keep attracting top talent.
But this is the thing. This is the thing with free-to-play games. The only reason that that's the only way they can survive is because they're competing with free-to-play games that are doing the same thing. That's why I mean that they're bad for the industry. Because it's making even pay-to-play games introduce these mechanics, because they need to compete. And they're not competing for... I mean, in a way they're competing for us players, but mostly they're competing for publishers and marketing and profits and investors.
It's tricky. Like I see what you're saying, but I don't necessarily think it's like that. I don't think it but it sounds like the argument you're trying to make is that it's gonna get to the point where all publishers are like, we only accept games that are gonna make a shit ton of money, and I don't think that's the reality at all. I don't think that's the reality now, and I don't think it's gonna be the case either in the future. Like I don't think. Like, if you look at the games like Sony have pumped out lately...
Again, that's a big, financially independent studio.
Sure, but, there's always going to be these games. And, there's always going to be a balance.
Well, I don't know if that's true. I mean, Blizzard used to be like that, to be honest. I mean, I think Blizzard used to make really tremendous games.
Yeah, definitely.
And I don't think that's true anymore.
But can you give me an example of a game that you think this is happening to?
Well, it's quite difficult. You don't know all the games that didn't get made because, the publisher said, well, we can't monetize this. So it's quite hard to say. But I guess
sure.
the argument Pilgrim made was that there's been a drought, supposedly, of good games, which I guess...
But then also, you're making the assumption that this is the reason why, and it might not be that. There could be any number of underlying reasons. Fine.
But also, I mean, also you can say, where's this happening? Well, I mean, look at how the Battlefield... franchise has evolved.
That's a fair point. Yeah, good argument.
Yeah, look how the Call of Duty franchise. Look at how the Call of Duty franchise has evolved. I mean, those are two different companies. It's Activision and it's EA and DICE. And I mean, those games have. I mean, look, I still played Battlefield 5 the other night. It's still good, but it's not as good as they used to be. And I think it's because it's designed more and more with this money making in mind.
Right, and Ubisoft as well. Look at the first Assassin's Creed. No microtransactions. They just sort of, I guess, put together quite a solid game. It was innovative. And then what have they done since then? They've literally churned out the same thing, reskinned, and then just added in, microtransactions. Yeah,
you could buy XP boosts.
Yeah, I mean, they're not as bad as some other people, but it's it's the same. Far Cry, likewise, they had Far Cry.
Yeah, that's Ubisoft. And For Honor. Yeah, I mean, that was
that's what I'm saying. Assassin's Creed, Ubisoft. Yeah. These games, Far Cry, they just keep reusing the same assets, churning out new games. And I don't know, sure. I guess this is the thing. This is what you said, Doodle. They're better, with the exception of some of the Assassin's Creed ones, which were terrible. Yeah. But each time they do it, they get better. The mechanics get a bit better, the graphics get better. So in that sense, yes, they're getting better and they're innovating, air citations. Yeah. But they're not, you wouldn't get Assassin's Creed now, the new Assassin's Creed, because it's too much of a risk. And because if they did, they'd try to monetize it. I think that's the point
I think there's two things about... two things. I'd make at least one point. I could... probably make a pretty strong argument that Dota, CS, Fortnite are innovative.
Well, look, CS was innovative, back in the day when it came, and it's an evolution of that innovation. Fine.
Yeah.
Dota is innovative, definitely, yeah.
Yeah.
But
I would say Fortnite is pretty innovative as well.
I wouldn't say Fortnite is innovative.
I think Fortnite is sort of the opposite of
I think it's derivative.
I think what they've done with their shop, with the just like.
Well, I guess again, this is what we're saying. The innovation tends towards how can you make a game based around an economy or based
okay,
around
sure,
money.
But maybe when you see a game like Fortnite and it sells, instead of selling loot boxes, which is borderline gambling, and I think many people would agree.
But it is gambling.
Yeah, just gambling.
Yeah. I think when you see a game like Fortnite, which sells specific items and generates 3 billion in profits, maybe that is gonna push the industry away from loot boxes and more towards like being able to choose what you want to buy. And I think part of why Fortnite has sold so well is because there's like this kind of, I mean, not necessarily entirely, but probably partly because of this kind of sense of honor, where it's like, oh well, I got a lot of enjoyment out of this game. There aren't loot boxes in it. I'm just going to buy an item which I think is cool.
I think that it seems like an honest company. You can definitely say that. There's no, there doesn't seem.
They're
to
very
be
in touch with their community.
Tactics,
they provide things that they want.
I mean, it's a little bit dodgy how it does seem to be targeted at kids. I agree, but then you'd have to say that every toy company in the world was dodgy. Their target market is kids. That's what they do.
Well, ideally their target market is parents. But in any case,
I know.
The point I would make though as well, I mean, I don't know if this is a conspiracy theory, but someone told me that China was spying at you through Fortnite. Is that true?
Through Fortnite?
Yeah. I read it on Reddit.
Probably.
I've not heard
it was something about Tencent.
I'm prepared to believe it.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. But
it's too late. We've decided it's true.
God damn it, it's done.
Done.
But yeah, no, I would definitely make the argument that like Dota is very specifically Dota. It's very innovative. Like MOBAs, like Dota 1 came out and that basically created MOBA, like the genre.
Yeah, okay, I agree with you. That's
League of Legends, built a bit on that.
That's what I'm going to say, right? So League of Legends is immensely popular, right?
Mm-hmm.
And isn't League of Legends just kind of a rip-off of Dota?
Dota 1, yeah. Well, what happened was Dota 1 was really old. And it was like, man, I wish it was like a better Dota 1. And then League of Legends came out. And
but listen, that's
Dota 2.
But that means it's derivative. Because the first Dota, is innovative. Because it's created this whole new gameplay. I mean, there was no MOBA before Dota, unless I'm wrong. I mean, that was it. That was a mod,
there was
right?
like some mod for StarCraft or some shit. But it was pretty much Dota 1,
That's where they came from. But from there, it's just an evolution of it. So in a way, Dota 2 is innovative, but only because, it comes from the same... evolutionary tree as
that's
Dota
literally not what innovation means. If I innovate an aluminium tin can and then you make the same tin can but you paint it gold, that's not innovation. That's
that's derivation.
That's
then,
derivation.
Exactly. So God of War and like Red Dead, these are innovative games. Okay, which implies that that they've done a cool thing for the industry, which other games can build upon in the future. But then you're just gonna say any other game that builds upon what these games have are derivative.
No, I don't think that's true. I think that what God of War did narratively was completely innovative, and I think that
the gameplay was not completely, but it had many innovative aspects.
Yeah, a lot of its mechanics.
The axe throwing, for example, was
were new. And sure. I mean, I think the big games this year, the thing that really stood out was the narrative content, is where they were innovating, and the motion capture and the cinematography of it, the music, the voice acting. Sure, God of War had some mechanically innovative things. I'm not sure Red Dead 2 had anything particularly interesting mechanically innovative, but that doesn't really matter because it was the story that made it, in my view.
I suppose that's true. I was going to say that some of the horse mechanics were very innovative, but I guess again
the ball shrinking. But it's
graphically innovative.
But for real, think about
landmark in the history of video game development.
If you imagine you're at Epic's board meeting, and you say, "Look, I want to have $500 million, and I'm going to spend a lot of it on." All this motion capture, have all these voice actors. We're going to write original songs. We're going to get Willie Nelson to sing them. They'd just be like, no, that's not. That might make us a one-off profit. It's not going to continually make us money. Yeah,
That's what they will say.
Why don't we just make more skins for Fortnite and sell it to all kids?
Yeah. So I mean, I see what you're saying. I think, however, I think saying that it's bad is this like it. I feel
different.
like this is
It's
basically
different.
inevitable, and also it's not necessarily. You're making it sound like this is the direction that all video games will be, and it's like there's not going to be any good innovation, and there's not going to be any good video games, and it's like that's probably really unlikely to be.
Well,
the case.
let me put my perspective to you. This is just something that I think. I think the only studios. I mean, of course, okay, there are exceptions, but the majority of games that come out have been made by studios that are either sufficiently huge to not have to worry about this kind of shit, or crowdfunding. That's where innovative, interesting, and really sort of new and exciting games are coming. I don't really think they're coming from elsewhere so much.
I think that we have put across our arguments very clearly and disagree. I think, it's clear where we stand on this. It's definitely an interesting topic.
Well, I have one more thing I wanted to say, which is sort of it's a somewhat.
When you wrap it up with that?
Well, I don't know. It's sort of synthetic and summarizing, but I don't know because I think what we're sort of scraping at here is a much deeper problem, which is what is the point of a game? Like, what is a game and what makes it good? And you can make the argument that this game has got it's got 50 million concurrent players. Yeah. Okay, that's a good game. But I think that's a definition of what a good game is that not everyone shares, because I certainly don't. I don't care how many people play. What game do I really not like?
Fortnite. Come on, just use Fortnite.
Oh, okay, sure. Well, it's not. Okay, I think Fortnite is a bad game. I don't think it's a trash game, but whatever. I don't care how many people you play Fortnite. It doesn't make it better to me. I still don't think it's a particularly good game. And likewise, I don't care how few people play the games that I think are like Kingdom Come. I don't care how few people play that. I think that was a genius game. It's a masterpiece. And the same goes. Same goes for God of War. I don't care how much money they make. So there's something about the quality of game that is separate from just simply how many people play it.
But that's true of absolutely. I mean, that's true of absolutely everything. And that's why you have awards. I guess that's why you have award shows. That's why you celebrate the people who take the risks. That's why God of War got Game of the Year, because they did something different. And, and that's why we make podcasts about the good stuff. To cut through.
But this is what I was going to say, because then if you have those two competing views of what makes a good game, and one is it's like a sort of qualitative assessment of how innovative or interesting or exciting it is, or however you want to do it on the one hand, and on the other hand you have, well, how many people play it and how much money does it make? Those also represent this dichotomy between publishers and developers. And I think that to adopt the view that Fortnite is a good game because so many millions of people play it is to do what I mentioned earlier, which is to allow this evolution
because many people play it. Many people play it because it is good.
Well, I don't know about that. I mean, it's like, I guess it's like...
well, when you play it, you think wow, there's so many people playing this game, it's really good. Or of course you don't, I
think it's like a fast food restaurant. It's like a fast food restaurant. Lots of people eat at the fast food restaurant. That doesn't mean it's good, but it does mean that it has something that people want.
But, exactly. And it's but this is the point that Sleeve Monkey made before about TV shows. It's like, is Keeping Up with the Kardashians a good TV show? I don't think it's a very good TV show.
Have you ever watched it?
But lots of, I think I watched it once actually. But anyway, I don't think it's a good show. But a lot of people watch it. But that doesn't make it good.
No, sure. But there will always be good shows, and there will always be popular shows, but not necessarily good shows.
That is a fair point. It's not like they could put advertising in video games like they have in TV. Yeah. It's not
like Keeping Up with the Kardashians is stopping. I'm trying to think of some really good show.
Mad Men.
Sure, from being made,
Yeah, that's a good point. I think we should finish on that because we're veering dangerously out of the territory of video games. I think we solved this one. The answer is
it's bad when you bring up the Kardashians.
When you bring up the Kardashians, it's like Hitler in an argument. You lost.
When you bring up Kim K.
Yeah, well, listen, that was great. We solved it, I think. So good job. Thanks to our listeners and our sponsors.
Yeah,
This episode was sponsored by Epic Games.
I wish we'd be rich.
Check the links below to buy our special loot boxes.
Free V-Bucks for everyone who clicks subscribe.
Free preview, side portraits.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Good job. Bye.
Bye.
Thanks so much.
Right.
Bye.
The end.
We're gonna stop recording up.
Okay.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Critical Mass podcast. Really hope you enjoyed it. If you did like it, or if you have any comments, why don't you tweet us at criticalmasspod, or you can get in touch on our website, thecriticalmass.com. That's all one word. On our website, you'll also find all the latest episodes, all the articles, all the reviews, all that good stuff. If you did like the show, we'd really appreciate it if you'd share it with a friend or someone you think would like it. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, TuneIn, iTunes, anywhere you get your podcasts. And lastly, thanks so much to Hakun for the great music which we've used in the show. That's Hakun, Hakkuun. He's great. You should check him out on SoundCloud. Thanks again, and catch you next time. Bye.